Welcome back to another edition of the Kaufman Corner podcast. With you, one David Lesky from Inside the Crown, Les Norman from Breaking the Norm, former Kansas City Royals outfielder. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. We are talking Royals baseball, which means we're talking Jac Caglianone. He of the mammoth shot. A couple more home runs here in the last couple of games for the Kansas City Royals. What's going to be his longest home run? Is the swing getting a little bit longer? David's done some work on that. We'll talk about that. Buy or sell with new information. We reserve the right to change our opinions. 7-2 in their last 9. 3 of those games are against the Pirates. We'll talk about that. Dallas Keuchel's been signed. Should we take that to mean something for some of the other starters? What about the very latest on why it took Salvy so long to figure things out? Maybe we'll get to Nick Loftin. We're looking to do it all right here, right now on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro. David Lesky is an accomplished author and the publisher of the Inside the Crown Royals baseball newsletter. Les Norman is a former Royals outfielder. He's the host of Breaking the Norm with Les Norman on Sports Radio 810 WHB, as well as the author of Teaching the Tools of Hitting. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by David Starnes Allstate Insurance, covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff as well. Motorcycle, boat, ATV, you name it, get with Dave and he'll have you covered. Give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. Now, here are your hosts, David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro.
All right, thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. And different time, if you're wondering. Yeah, we had some different things. We had to scramble around. Normally, we would come your way on a Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Instead, it's 9 p.m. Central, so if you've been looking for it. And you're wondering, why did my podcast show up late? That's why. Life happens, people. It does. Sometimes you just got to deal with it. So we deal with it here today. We hope you made your way to the podcast. Let's talk about Jac Caglianone, guys. I mean, what do we think? I love the line. Is it all fixed? I think that's just always a great way to do it, as he figured it out. 2 home runs in his last 2 games. Another good at bat in the 9th inning on Tuesday night, where he helps keep the line moving and gets them to a win. What do you see? Let's start with Les. You have hit big league pitching before. What do you see this go round now with Jac Caglianone? Is he starting to maybe figure it all out?
Yeah, look, Jac Caglianone is not a bad big league hitter. I know you look at his batting average and you see 154, I think it is, or something like that right now. But he's not a bad big league hitter. He's just making bad decisions, swinging at pitches that he can still make contact with. But imagine if he would have been really selective, 50% better, not like the best big league hitters, but 50% better, 30% better. He'd be hitting 240. And then we wouldn't be talking about as he figured it out. We'd just be saying, oh, he's just got a little bit more time. And let's also realize he only has 119 at-bats. And isn't 100 at-bats what, at least I know I usually say, that's when you begin to see what you're going to get. And so, first of all, I'm going to say this, and I'm probably going to get booed, even though I'm glad I can't hear it. The last 2 home runs Jac Caglianone hit, he should have hit, because they were down the middle and they threw it where he was swinging. Now, again, that sounds like a knock on Jac. It's not, because you have to be able to hit a big league home run and have that good timing. And he's got a great swing. And oh my gosh, the power. My son texted me and I was going around showing everybody where that ball landed last night in dead center field. I mean, you don't see that in batting practice when guys are getting cookies down the middle and the wind's blowing out. So I think he's figured some things out in the sense that when he gets good pitches to hit, all he's got to do is put the bat on the ball. All he's got to do is be able to shorten that swing a little bit, which I know we're going to get into. I'm going to save that for David if he wants to go that route. But I still think he's a good hitter. I don't think 2 home runs save him from going down to the minor leagues. I was thinking maybe at the All-Star break, if he didn't show any kind of positivity or any push forward, that, okay, maybe a month, come back in, August, September. But again, he's still showing that he can really drive the ball on pitches that are drivable. So I think you should just leave him here now, unless he hits some incredibly horrible slump again, then maybe August go down. But he's not a bad hitter. He's just making bad decisions. And if he can get to the point where he can show that plate discipline, I think he's going to be fine. He could end up hitting 250 in the next 35 to 40 at-bats if he just gets a little bit hot.
There's an adage, when you think you guys are ready to be called up, wait a week, see if you still do, and then call him up. I think that probably works both ways. When it's time to send a guy down, wait a week, make sure that you still do. And I do think he was in that week. Right before these last couple of games. He was for me. Like I'd seen a guy who looked disheartened, looked beaten. These last couple of games, or maybe last few games, have really been nice for him. Let's talk about the length of a swing, though, David. I know that's something you were looking at. It has officially, by measurements, gotten longer.
Well, yes, sort of. I looked a little deeper after we chatted offline. Okay. So I went by week. I'll just give you each week of his career. There's only 5 full ones, and then this half week. 7.4 feet when he came up, 7.5, 7.6, 7.5, 7.7, 7.6. So it has gotten longer. Yes. It is not significantly longer.
Right.
He's right now. The average is 7.5 feet per swing, which is 96th out of 335 players with 200 or more swings. So not brutally, not insane. You look at some other Junior Caminero, 8.3 feet. Aaron Judge is 8.1. Shohei's 8 feet even. Cal Raleigh 7.9. So the length of his swing, it's a little bit long. It is. It's top. What is that? Top 4th, top 30%, bottom 30%, depending on how you want to look at it. But in the top 30 percentile in length, that's going to get cut, isn't it? But it's not crazy long. And I mean, like I said, Kyle Schwarber's at 7.5 feet. Kyle Tucker, a lot of Kyles. Kyle Tucker's at 7.6 feet. So it's doable to hit with the length of swing. And with his size, I think I'd be surprised if it was a lot shorter. But to the point, it is longer today, or at least this week. The 3 games against the Pirates, 7.6 feet, are longer than his 6-game debut when it was in St. Louis and Chicago to start.
Do we have data to compare that to what he was in the minor leagues or what he was?
No, it exists. It doesn't exist publicly.
So they would have it, but theoretically, it could be that is his normal swing length when he starts to feel comfortable.
And it also the fluctuation. I mean, the 7.4 to 7.7 is probably that's a could be a third of a foot, 4 inches basically, which is significant. But you 0.2 of a foot. I don't know. That's not a huge difference, but it is getting a little longer. The one thing that I think is interesting about Caglianone, and nobody wants to hear it, but I'm going to say it anyway. You look at the quality of contact when he makes it, and he's a little bit unfortunate in his results. I don't want to say unlucky, because I think there are a lot of things he's doing poorly that cause it. Like he pound the ball into the ground. He doesn't have the speed to beat it out. Like his sprint speed's like 25th, 26th percentile, something like that. But his expected batting average is 250. His expected slug is 452. If he's hitting 250 with a 452 slugging percentage, which is a 202 isolated slugging percentage, we're looking at him and going, yep, this is what I thought it'd be. This is exactly where I thought he'd be. Maybe a little more power than a 450 slugging percentage. But so you look at those numbers and you start to maybe take a step back. The thing that I keep seeing, and I think Les might have a thought on this. You
know it.
I do know it. He's I've been noticing, and I don't know if you guys agree with this, but when he's slammed his bat quite a bit, and I don't mind it a few here and there. What I mind about it is there are 2 reasons why you slam your bat. One, you either think you missed your pitch to hit, and you're frustrated by the result, which okay, fine. The other is you're frustrated with yourself. And he's done it so often and on so many pitches that were not the pitch to hit that I really hope he's frustrated with himself because if he thought those were the pitch to hit and was frustrated for that reason, yikes. And that's the concerning part about the pitch selection. But, and I'll stop talking in a second. I know I've yabbered on for too long, but
you're good.
The thing that Les, you mentioned the crushing the pitches and they should be crushing. He wasn't doing that before. And I think, and I don't even know, I saw a study a while ago, I can't remember the number, but there's something about it doesn't matter who you are, who you're facing, you're going to get a pitch middle, at least one or two a game. If he can crush
you
those,
should.
You should. I mean, but you typically, I mean, a pitcher's going to miss. A pitcher is going to miss in the middle, especially the Royals' philosophy of throw the ball down the middle and let it move is kind of every team's philosophy now. Like it's not that different. And Matt Quatrero comes out and says this all the time. You throw strikes, you're going to give up home runs and you're going to miss in the middle and all that. He's going to get pitches in the middle. He got pitches in the middle. He wasn't swinging or was not hitting them hard. He hit them hard and far, and that's great.
I'd go back and look at some of those at bats. I think that early on he wasn't getting as many because he was getting himself into holes where he was swinging at pitchers' pitches and they didn't have to throw it down the middle. He was getting himself out by a large margin. Now, maybe that improved as long as he got maybe a little more patient. But I feel like in watching him, he was getting himself out by swinging at pitches that weren't down the middle because there's also pitches that were down the middle that he did get that he took because he's thinking so much that he's going to get a pitch and then he starts guessing. And I'll say with the whole bat slamming thing, I mentioned that to my son the other day. I'm over it. I'm tired of seeing it. And I love watching Jack play, and he's still going to get my attention when he comes up to the plate. But the whole slamming the bat thing, first of all, you're young and you haven't earned the right to do that, in my opinion. I know there's a lot of new school, old school stuff. But for me, yes, I'm old school. You want to slam your bat once in a while, like you said, David, okay. But when you're doing it every time you miss a pitch or you don't like the situation or something like that, okay, get a couple years in the big leagues and then start firing on it, because what you're doing is it's showing your immaturity and you're giving the pitchers more fuel to get inside your head. That a pitcher sees it and thinking, oh yeah, I got him. And then now they know how to pitch him and they're not going to throw, unless they miss, they're not going to throw him something over the middle of the plate. So he needs to get over himself and get over that right now. And somebody in that coaching staff has got to be able to get in his ear. Somebody that's a leader on the team has got to get in his ear and say, you need to knock that stuff off and just play.
I do think I think anybody can relate to that part of the equation, that, the guy who wants to make sure, this is the first time I've ever missed a pitch. This is the first time I ever didn't, pick a ball over at first base. When you throw a fit, like, oh my God, it does start to get tiresome. And I'm with you, but don't the last 2 days, kind of the interaction with Vinny Pasquantino and the playful nature they were answering questions, Curtis Siebold, was asking him about something and he laid out a line that Vinny Pasquantino uses, like just trying to put a little sweat in the bathtub. And, and then he looks over and Curtis goes, did he give you that one? And he goes, yeah. And then Vinny goes, you used it terribly. That was awful. Like there was a levity to it. And I think you're right. And I wonder if somebody didn't go say something to him. Maybe Vinny say something to him. I'm sure there was legit frustration, but there does seem to be, when anybody hits, when you're playing well, that stress goes away, right? Mm-hmm. We don't see that as much when you're doing what you think you're capable of. I thought David made a great point last when he said, whether it's, he missed his pitch or he's mad at himself, either way, that both of those, like if you missed your pitch, you missed it. So, but you're mad at yourself because you still are confident, hopefully, unless you're just throwing a tantrum, are confident that you can do better. And you're frustrated that you didn't. And I think that's what I saw like a week ago, was a guy who looked like he didn't necessarily think he could do better. He looked like a guy who was defeated. Yeah.
And there's a difference between the two. And I think you're both right in that. It's just, and again, I don't mind slamming the bat. I really don't. I mean, sometimes I'd strike out and slam the bat. And I struck out enough where I broke enough. I'd slam the bat on the ground and hang on to the handle just to purposely break the bat to like, it was almost like, okay, bat, you let me down. It's like, Joe Boo can't hit a curveball, right? Yeah. So it was just seeing it over and over again just wore me out a little bit. If he is getting on himself and knows he can do better, that's fantastic. But flip the bat off to the side, drop a bomb if you need to, a curse word, something, scream in your hand, something, but enough of the bat slamming. It doesn't have to go every single time.
Yeah. Tell me, what did you see anything less in particular in the home run swings? Like what was your takeaway? Whether anything, whether it was wow, how easy it was to hit the ball that far? Was it the swing that you think he is repeatable and that he can do? Was it all
Yeah.
about pitch selection? What did you see?
Well, I mean, obviously it was pitch selection because it was a drivable ball. It might have been middle to middle, outer half, and he obviously took it.
Remember, hang on, not to interrupt you. I just don't want to move off that point too fast. Remember, his first home run was like 9 inches above the strike zone. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a drivable ball for 6'5", 250 with great skills. It's not still not the pitch you want him taking or want him swinging at.
Right. It's Novak Djokovic's first serve in Wimbledon on any other guy. So the thing I see on that home run you mentioned, I'm glad you mentioned that, the big high one, and then the one yesterday, and then the smoked line drive that he hit the game before that 2 days ago. It's all about his head being still. Mechanically, he is still sound, except for maybe his swing's a little bit long. I mean, he's got a wide base. His head's on the ball. His barrel's in the zone. What I see is when he really drives the ball and really, I mean, drives it better than most people drive it, is just that he keeps his head still. And when your head's still, your hands work a little bit better. You're seeing the ball a little bit better. You can get your hands inside the ball better. You can go with pitches a little bit better. You can lay off. But when your head is moving, there's so many moving parts. It's like, okay, today, you and I were both at a golf tournament, right? We were at the 810 tournament, right? Okay. So the first at the driving range, kept my head still, destroying the ball for about 14 holes. I was spraying with my driver all over the place because I couldn't keep my head still, and there's just too many moving parts to happen. I know there's two different sports, but it's the same thing when you're hitting something. When your head is still, everything else works better.
Yeah, you have no excuse on the golf range, so I'm going to be honest with you, Les, for crying out loud.
You don't. I stink. I'm horrible. I suck at golf.
Golf ball wasn't coming at you at 100 miles an hour, for crying out loud.
I'd rather hit the 100 miles an hour.
Golf, then. let me give you one really quick stat. I just pulled it up because I was curious. Pitches in the heart of the plate for Caglianone. 101 pitches he's seen in the heart of the plate. The StatCast zone that's, right. the middle circle. He's hit 217 with a 435 slugging percentage. A lot of that's been the last 2 days. But again, the expected numbers, 355 and 727. So there is a part of me that wonders, he took 24 of them. So probably shouldn't have taken that many. But there is a part of me that wonders a little bit, was this inevitable that it was going to start to come because he was hitting the ball hard already? I don't know. But it's interesting.
Is he getting comfortable, not necessarily with having bad numbers, but has he gotten beyond I got to get my numbers up and just gone back to, okay, the numbers aren't going to be what I want them to be anytime soon. So let's just get back to doing things right. And now he's
putting the sweat in the bathtub. So yeah,
I like it. Well done. You used it well. Go ahead, Les. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No. It's I was me interrupting. All I was going to say was, he took 24 of those, and I'd be interested to see, and maybe you could bring this up. We don't have to today, but of those 24 he took down the middle, if it wasn't strike three, then how many, because he realized he missed his pitch, did he get over anxious, over frustrated, then swinging a bad pitch to try to make up for what he just did? Because then that's hitting inside your head, and that's not a way to come out of a slump. And so, like you said, those 24 pitches he probably should have swung at. Instead of, he's just got to get to the point where he stops swinging at bad pitches and then trying to make up for a mistake of letting one that went right down the middle go by.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. Let's finish, Jack, with this. What do we think the longest home run he's going to hit? Is this guy going to hit the scoreboard at some point? What do you put it at? What's he capable of, Les?
Yeah, I think he's capable of a 500-foot shot. I mean, I really do. I know that's almost other human. Look, I was there when Judge hit that home run onto the Hall of Fame, that first game against the Yankees. I was kind of sitting on the first base side where when he hit it, I was like right away from me, right in line. And that was unbelievable. And I think that when they said went 469 or something like that, there's no way that was 469. And I feel like where Jac's ball landed yesterday, what is it? Is it 410 to center?
Yeah.
Yeah, they put him at 4. What are they? It was
56.
The third longest in Kauffman this year.
Yeah, and so I just feel like where that ball landed and where the 410 sign is, it's more than 46 feet. So I don't know how they gauge it. So I'm thinking that whatever the model they use, I think he is capable, because I mean it's really hot. It was kind of a dead wind. I don't think the wind was blowing out to center field. I don't know, but he crushed it no matter what. I just think he's capable of a 500-footer if he's got some wind help.
Yeah. By the way, you should be on the Scott Van Pelt show. Stanford Steve never likes. He always thinks the home runs are way longer than the listed difference in there. David, what do you think? What can this guy do?
All right, so there's 3 in the StatCast era by the StatCast measurement. I don't know if it's real. 3 home runs that were 500 feet or longer. Nomar Mazara, C.J. Cron, and Giancarlo Stanton.
One of those is expected.
Yeah.
Well, Cron's he was playing for Colorado. I'm not sure if they were at home or not, which that would make a difference too, because Cron had crazy power.
Yeah, he did.
But yeah, Stanton was expected. I don't know. He's so big. He's so strong. He swings so hard. To your point, Les, the wind blows out one day. I'm not saying he will, but he easily can get a 500. Not easily,
yeah.
But he could be the fourth member of the 500 foot club, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I just, the sky's the limit, obviously. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, I think it's possible that, he has as much power as we've ever seen, right? Like, I don't know who has more power. Didn't I try to hear somebody tell me that the scouts put him at a 70?
I saw that. Who was that? It was,
what does 80 look like then?
Right.
People knew 80 is the top mark on a scout scale and everything. I'm like, if that's 70 power, what the hell is 80?
I'm trying to remember where I saw that too. I know Pipeline had it at 80. So, or maybe he didn't. I'm trying to pull up Pipeline right now. Yeah, MLB Pipeline has him at 70. So it's Baseball America that had him at 80. MLB Pipeline had him at 70. I
don't know what 80 power.
If you're giving him a 70, nobody gets an 80 for anything ever.
Yeah, I guess that's it. It's 99 in Madden.
Right.
Like we got to always leave 100 in case, the incarnation of football Jesus happens. Well, I guess, 70 is like we're waiting for someone who's 10 feet tall, literally Paul Bunyan,
right.
To come out there and show us more.
The brawny commercial guy.
Yeah. We'll talk about whether or not it's time to buy or sell. Are we adjusting where we were at? We'll do that after you hear from our friends at David Starnes Allstate Insurance. David Starnes Allstate Insurance, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. With David Starnes Allstate, it's not just about fender benders. Beyond traditional safeguards, enjoy perks like roadside assistance for unexpected breakdowns, transportation expense coverage when your car is in the shop, auto replacement protection to keep you on the road in style, and much more. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance.
Green Light Dispensary, voted Kansas City's best dispensary and your go-to for quick, convenient service. With 4 locations across the Kansas City area, we're never far away. Our drive-through and express windows make it easy to get in, get out, and get on with your day. Our award-winning service is powered by a team of experts dedicated to making your experience seamless and enjoyable. It's no wonder we've been voted the best. Convenient locations, fast service, knowledgeable staff. That's the Green Light difference. Visit us today.
All right, where are we? They swept the Pirates. In fact, I wish I had it in the comments section. By the way, everybody checking in with the power numbers. I love the 70 is like giving Patrick Mahomes a 90 on there. Is it time to buy or sell? Right? A couple of folks had chimed in here. Come on, people, settle down. It's the Pirates. I'm at the president of that club. Let me be clear. Because when the Pirate series started, I said, look, what are we going to think if they sweep the Pirates? Should we be doing cartwheels? Because if you don't have that thought before you play the series, afterwards, you're like, they're playing great. They're definitely playing better. Let's be clear. They took 2 of the last 3 against Seattle. They took 2 out of 3 from Arizona, and they've now swept the Pirates. And all you can do is sweep the Pirates. So I'm not downgrading them for beating the only team that they could beat. We'll know a lot more after the Mets. Go 0-3 against the Mets. We'll be like, okay, whatever. Right? Yeah. And I think I was figuring it up, against the White Sox, Pirates, A's, and Rockies. They're now 7-5. So not exactly beating up on the bottom feeders of baseball, right? Like if you're going to be like, okay, well, we're not going to be – because last year I think the Royals played 450 ball against the 500 plus. but then they just walloped, led by the 11 or 12-1 against the White Sox. That was really the difference in them getting over the hump. So where are we on the buy or sell right now? Les, are you buy, sell? I'll give you the chance to hold too, because with the draft coming up, I don't think anybody's shopping it, doing any work on the trade market, because they're all finishing up draft plans and finding out where everybody sits on signability and everything right now. So it really doesn't even matter what we think right now, buy or sell, because I don't think anybody has time, because the draft is in a terrible spot. But where would you be on buy or sell right now with the Royals after what they've done over the last 9?
Well, first of all, I'm the vice president of that club, if I may be, or I'll run for that office if I need to, because look, the Pittsburgh Pirates offense is going to steal 2 or 3 Cy Youngs from Paul Skeens. I mean, let's face it, because he's one of, I think, 2 starting pitchers under 2, and he's got 7 losses. That's incredible. And so he's either going to have to get out of there, or they're going to have to start from scratch or something, because that's just not a very good team. And those were some close games. I mean, we had to have a Jac home run and 2 Salvy home runs to win that game 4-3. And so, yes, they were exciting and they're great, but it's the Pittsburgh Pirates. So let's realize that. And that's not knocking the Royals. I mean, they've had 5-6 guys in the last 7 and the last 15 games that have done really well. So thank you for putting the precursor in there that I get a little bit of a hold. I'm kind of fluttering between the sell and hold. I think JJ Piccolo is going to have to really get creative. I mean, I think like the Marlins, the Nationals, the Red Sox. I would love to see Jarren Duran in this outfield. It's never going to happen. Wouldn't that be great? And I think the Marlins, Nationals, Orioles, and the Red Sox have all loaded outfielders, and they have somebody to dump. And so I'm still in the sell market, but it's also a little bit of a hold as well. So maybe it's the easy way out, but I'm kind of copping that spot between sell and hold right now. If they do sell, it has to be worth it, and there's got to be a good corner outfielder involved.
By the way, Elizabeth says, I say hold. Cotman says, I'm not sure, buy or sell, but can we just give Q some credit? I think we give Q a lot of credit here. I think he means in general. Because I think there are a lot of people that are still nitpicking on Cotrero. Where are you? Buy, sell, hold? What do you think, David?
I'm maintaining I would not buy for 2025 specifically. I have zero problem, and I think they even should go out and do some off-season shopping in July, where they can go out and help their 2016, their 2017 potentially with some guys. And Jarren Duran's one of them. Wilyer Bray is one of them. Jesus Sanchez from the Marlins is one of them. I mean, Kyle Stowers is one of them. If you want to go there's a lot of options out there. And so if they're able to pick up a piece that can help them this year, no doubt. I'm not saying that you just punt on 2025, because I don't know what's happened tonight in the games, but there's only 2 teams between them and the third wild card. They're tied for the third wild card. So they have to pass those 2 teams. It went from 6-2 in 3 days. So my thought process is I wouldn't give up huge assets for a 2025 only player, but I would buy for the future, because I think this team can still compete down the road.
Buy for the future. That
buy for the future that also helps the present. So if let's use Jesus Sanchez. I don't love that option because of the skill set. But if they go out and say we're going to make a trade, and we are going to acquire an outfielder who can help us in 25, the rest of the year, and 26, and I think he's 27 also. I think he's got team control through 27. I think that's the way they should buy if they're going to buy. The one thing I will say, everybody says, "Oh, it's the Pirates. Oh, it's the Pirates." Fair, totally fair. The thing that I keep coming back to, though, is the Pirates can pitch, and what's the one thing that everybody said if the Royals could hit, they'd be in first place. They hit 9 home runs at Kauffman Stadium against a team that came into that series second in baseball in the fewest home runs allowed. They came into that series 1 home run behind Texas, or ahead of Texas, whatever. I think it was 78-77 in home runs allowed, and the Royals hit 9 of them in 3 games. And so the caveat that I will give, and you're right, we'll know a lot more after the Mets series, but if the big bats have started to get going, and it's Witt, Salvy, and Pasquantino, it doesn't. I mean, Maikel Garcia is in there, but when those 3 hit, the Royals win. And if they can get moving, I think it changes the calculus. I'm not ready to say they're there after a few games, and we'll talk about Salvy in a little bit, but that does change things a little bit. I mean, they are, what did I put the stat in today's newsletter, and I can't remember what it is now. I think they're 19-12 or something in games they score 3 or 4 runs, not 3 or more, 3 or 4. And
Right.
it's the third best winning percentage in baseball, whatever the number is. I can't remember off the top of my head. So there's a part of me that goes, all right, well, they did it. They hit against a good pitching staff. And that is more interesting than the results.
Okay.
I mean, if they had lost all 3 games and done this, I still might be a little, well, the record would be tough to overcome, but I still might be a little more intrigued about this team than I was because of who they did it against, because they are the Pirates, but the Pirates pitching staff is legitimately good.
Yeah. I think that is a good point to keep in mind there. What does official buy mode look like though? Like what is the finish line? If you're the general manager, you're asking the ball club to get to say, okay, I'm going to give future resources. Like, because it's like, I'm just watching, it's always like, well, we want to see, and people talk about in these hypotheticals, they talk about it in generalities of teams. Well, you want to be at 500. So is it 500? If they get at 500, I talked about this before. They said every year we are in contention, which I think it's fair to say they're in contention. To your point about jumping up, it is amazing how many spots they jumped up so quickly. Like that's the thing. Like, they were not just down a ways. They had all these teams, and miraculously they've gone right by them. Okay. The Pirates 3-0 helps a lot get that done. And maybe if I look back at it, I'd be like, yeah, all the other contenders are against all the best teams in baseball. So it'd be a little expected. But wait a minute, so-and-so's now got 3 against the White Sox, 3 against the Rockies, and 3, like we're going to see them catch a run because of the schedule. I'd have to map out all the schedules, which we do later in the year, but I haven't done right now to see, like, look out, here comes a run from these guys. But I do think it's kind of important to set in your head where, on what date you want to be. And maybe it's not a record. Maybe it's not within 500. Maybe it's like, we have to be within 3 games. We can be no more than 4 teams back. Like, what, should that be less how they gauge whether or not they're going to buy or sell?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, you have to have some kind of goal to lash onto. I mean, as a big league club, I don't think you're just a pendulum back and forth. Every series you go back and forth. I think that you have to stick with what you're doing, in the sense of, I guess, not so much of a series, but like you're saying, as of a record, last 7, last 15, by July 30th, by July 25th. I mean, coming up not too long. I mean, what is today? The 10th. I mean, that's only 2 weeks away. So, yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that the Royals need to look at, we want to be so-and-so record by this date. And if we're not, and on the other hand, be looking at what the other teams are doing as well. But I think it's really important. I think the Royals, in a weird way, are kind of in that space, like the sell hold thing. I mean, we don't know what they're doing behind the scenes, but I think it's important to have those little the stakes in the ground along the way, and it could dictate what they do.
You got a barometer on where it would be, David, to put your foot on the gas and really go for it?
Yeah. So this is their schedule in the next 3 series: 3 against the Mets, All-Star break; 3 against the Marlins, who are playing really good baseball right now, and 3 against the Cubs. That's it's a tough stretch. Now the All-Star break might thwart some of that Marlins momentum. They're better though. They actually are a better team. They look, I've watched a few of their games or parts of their games, and they just look better. I mean, you can see it if you watch baseball. Right now they're 2 games under 500. I think they need to get out of that stretch. They need to get to the off day on July 24th at a game over 500. That's 6-3. It's tough. 3 are at home, and then the Marlins and Cubs are on the road. That's not an easy stretch. They dug themselves a hole though, and I don't think that they can necessarily look at themselves unless they get past that at 500 or better. And the only way to do that games wise is to go 6-3. If they go 5-4, okay, they're a game under. I'm not going to say you have to sell to anything that's not bolted down, but I think that if they're going to actually start to look to buy, and I think there are 2 buys. There's buy for spend actual assets on rental players or spend actual assets on players who can help you this year, but are also for the future. And I don't think the 6-3 is for the players who are for the future. I think you can do that if you're 20 games under 500, honestly. But they've got to be, to me, over 500 on July 24th. Now that could, if they go 5-4 and they're a game under, and then they sweep the Guardians and they're 2 over, okay, then that changes again. It's a moving target. But I think they've got to get to 500 first. And it's not an easy schedule to get there.
I know when I ask, what did you think of the Dallas Keuchel signing? You'll say, well, what the hell does this have to do with buying or selling? But my thought on that was that with already having Rich Hill and then signing Dallas Keuchel, it could be as easy as Cole Reagans went to the 60-day DL and they've quietly got not good news, right? And so they're just loading up depth for if some other people go down. That's a very sane and reasonable answer. The other one was they're amassing a war chest to facilitate the game if they do sell. They are getting interest in Seth Lugo, or they've got somebody who said, listen, we'll take a run at Bubic. We know he's going to be expensive, but we want the extra year. He's exactly what we need. We need a left-hander, and we're coming for him. And they went, we really have, as we have talked about on this podcast, literally nobody in the minor leagues who is ready to come up and pitch. We have some guys we like, but we don't want them coming up and getting beat to hell. And so we have got to go find some arms. My first reaction, and I always go to the extremes, was they're putting together, to make sure that they've got something to lock and load if they do move one of these starting pitchers, or they think, oh my God, we've actually got interest in multiple ones. Les, what do you make of signing Dallas Keuchel? Am I getting way too excited about this?
No, as soon as I found out, my first thought was, well, I bet Rich Hill's kind of frosty on the gills on that one. But I thought it was simply just pitching depth. I mean, I do think it's the potential trade right there. But, I mean, Rich Hill right now is like got an ERA over 6. I know it is AAA and big leagues can be different. But, I mean, what is he, like 73, 74 years old now?
That's right. Yes.
So there's something about that. Yeah, just had a birthday.
In his 60s. That's ridiculous, Les.
What's that?
He's only in his 60s.
Yeah, my bad. I'm sorry.
He is 45, right? I think, just to be clear, we're joking about it, but I think he is 45.
Yep.
Yeah, he's closer to 50 now, and so to me, that's not an answer. It's just not an answer. That's an emergency, and Dallas Keuchel is an emergency. But if they're doing depth, that's fine, because if you think about it, if you're signing both of those because you know you're going to trade a Seth Lugo type, then what you're saying is that one of those two might be your answer in the rotation. If Lugo goes, no way. Absolutely not, in my opinion. So I'm thinking that they're just doing it for a little bit of depth in case there's another emergency.
Yeah. Okay. What was your reaction, David?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's depth more than anything. But that is depth because, hey, it's July. We might trade a starter, right? Like, Luinder Avila is on the IL. He's been out for a while, and I don't know if he's going to come back this year. I'm looking at the starters right now. Chandler Champlain has been terrible. He's not a big league starter. They brought in Justin Dunn. No. John Gant. No. Thomas Hatch. Rich Hill struggled. I'm scrolling down the list trying to find other starters. It's Keuchel, and I think that's it because Kyle Wright's hurt too, and Alec Marsh hasn't pitched. And I think there's just a need for guys to start games in Omaha. I mean, that's a big part of it. But I also think, yeah, you've got to have somebody who you can call up if I mean, Noah Cameron pulls a hamstring covering first base, or Seth Lugo gets a blister. He had one recently and can't go, and just needs to not pitch that day. You need to have somebody available, and they didn't have anybody in the upper levels. I argue they still may not, but I think that's the biggest thing to me. We talked about this. I think it was on Sunday. It might have been on the show on Monday, Soren. But I think they're more likely to acquire an arm to backfill a Lugo or a Lorenzen, who could be traded, by the way, or a Bubic deal. I think they're more likely to go get a mid-range starter who's got some control than they are to really want to rely on Rich Hill or Dallas Keuchel. But you need to have those guys. You need to have the break glass in case of emergency guys, and that's what they are, I think.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Like, the conspiracy theory is more fun.
It is way more fun.
But I think more likely is just like, hey, we need some depth here, and these guys are available, so let's go get them. We'll talk a little bit about Cam Deanny, expectations for him. Salvador Perez, has he finished it all? Has he got everything all figured out? After you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. David Starnes Allstate Insurance. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff, as well as your motorcycle, boat, ATV, and you name it. Get with Dave, and he'll get you covered. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. David, what are we thinking Cam Deanny brings to this team?
Well, he didn't play against a lefty, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure why they brought him up, honestly. But Deanny, he's so interesting to me. I saw him in spring training taking infield. He can pick it. He's fun to watch. So that's interesting. The problem for Deanny, they don't need an infielder. Like, that's the one spot that they're kind of okay in. And that's why he hadn't gotten a call before the other day. But the batted ball metrics in AAA, and, you know, we talk about this a lot, like John Ray. Why didn't he get the call? Well, because he wasn't hitting the ball hard. No, Devaney's hitting the ball hard. 48.6% hard hit rate. He barrels it like 20% of the time. He hits the ball hard. He will swing and miss. He's got a decent eye at the plate, but he misses strikes. And he hits the ball a long way. And that's he's kind of become a 3 true outcomes type. He's not quite really there, but I think that's what you could see in the big leagues if he gets a chance. I just don't think he's going to get a chance. I mean, they brought him up, face a lefty on Wednesday, and he was on the bench. So I think he's a warm body right now.
Is it just to give him a reward for doing good work, try to keep his hopes up, Les? Is that what this is all about? Like, hey, here you go, come up, eat some big league food, take a charter or two, and keep the faith, because we like having our depth there. I mean, if you want to add to the conspiracy theory, they're getting his feet wet for when they move one of the infielders, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can throw that one around. What do you make of this move?
Well, this is his first time in the big leagues, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So he's 28. So it's probably due. I mean, he's hitting 272, 18 home runs. Last year he hit 19 home runs. He's got 18 at the break here. So that's pretty good. He's already got 55 RBIs. So he's on pace to hit, 35 homers, hit 270, 35 homers, and, 110 RBIs. That's a pretty good year in AAA. So sure, that's part of it. Now, this is probably not the case, but I'm going to throw this out there. What if it's another move, because he can play all over the infield, that there's another guy they're going to try to see if they can put in the outfield and see if he can swing the bat, because they've already done that for Rave, who's strictly a lefty. This guy's strictly a righty. And so, is that a possibility? I'll ask you both that question, because if it turns out, since he's a utility guy, if he can play outfield and give you 230, 240 or better, then maybe it is a better alternative, because then maybe Rave is going to be on the trading block, or he's going to be sent down. So again, throwing a little more conspiracy out there. Doubt if that's the case, but the thought came in, so I threw it out.
What took Salvador Perez so long to get going? This seems to be, when he hits 2 home runs and is going like he is, or pitchers just getting tired and they're leaving more fat ones. You mentioned how many. I was shocked when you said there have been 100 pitches left over the heart of the plate already to Jac Caglianone. I mean, I don't know why anybody would ever, I get the theory, and it was like, oh, duh, I could have had a V8. And by the way, if you get that joke, you're old, and congratulations for having the technology to be watching or consuming this podcast, because you're old as crap to get that. But if you just had this moment for the younger, more hip people, where it was like this epiphany where a light went on. Like, oh yeah, throw it over the middle, and if I have natural movement, that'll be the dart that I'm looking for. But it was around these parts because we'd never heard that, right? That was kind of that thing. And if that was the case, then I don't know. Our guys just leave it. There are pitches that he is hitting, David, that I'm just like, what the hell? Why are you throwing that pitch to him? You could start the ball 3 inches off the plate and run it 6 more off, and he will chase it. What do you make of him locking in now?
I've never understood why a pitcher throws a strike. I know that you make a mistake sometimes, but you're right. You don't have to even make a good pitcher's pitch sometimes to get him to swing and miss. But regardless, I think what I maybe didn't take into account enough. So think about Salvador Perez's season. Remember back in April, I'm looking right now. He's going into the doubleheader against the Rockies, and he was hitting 185, 235, 293. But all anybody could talk about was, well, he's expected to hit 330, 590 slugging percentage. And then all of a sudden, that doubleheader, because doubleheaders are magic for him, he started hitting, and he crushed the ball. And it was, he got, the 4 doubles in the doubleheader. He had an 1137 OPS over the next 7 games, including the doubleheader games. And then he hurt his hip. Well, in true Salvy fashion, he came back in about 12 minutes and was terrible. Just absolutely terrible. For 16 games, had a 391 OPS. That's we talk about Jac Caglianone struggling. He's 100 points higher than that. But then I don't know what changed. But in that last game against the Giants, he had 3 hits and then the home run to right center field. Since then, 874 OPS. I wonder a little bit, like maybe we just didn't take into account injury enough, that he was not feeling well. I mean, we talk about him needing rest and all that, but like maybe he just shouldn't have come back so quickly, and we'd be talking about him very differently had he taken the 10 days off after the hip thing and didn't try to come back. And I just that timeline makes me think, okay, this does seem like it was some bad luck to start the year, which is bad timing, and then the injury, because he's been really, really good for the last almost 2 months now.
Yeah, it could be as easy as baseball happens.
Yeah.
Right. And he's just the same guy he's always been. Streaky Salvy. We know he gets ice cold. We know he gets red hot. But this year, the numbers aren't going to be as shiny as they were in other years because he just did have some baseball bad luck when he was hot early on. And so when he got hot in that doubleheader, it was really just a continuation of what he's only doing. But he only was able to, the baseball gods frowned on him for most of it. So that suppressed his numbers. So if you look back, maybe Salvador Perez is really always the same guy. But the years that he has, 859, 21, 48 homers has an 859 OPS. They left a few more fat ones up. The wind blew out a little bit more. He was a little bit healthier. The hot streak was a few extra games on each side. And this is all just Salvy being Salvy. At the end, the numbers are going to be a little lower because he was a little colder, maybe a little bit, maybe it's slowing down a little bit. But the idea that a lot of us, myself, president of the club, by God, he's falling off a cliff, that was premature. What do you see right now, Les?
Right now, I see a guy zoned in, and I'm not frustrated at that. I'm confused at that because I'm gonna latch on to David's point of maybe he came back too early from injury because I just don't have anything else. I'll hitch my wagon to him. So it's confusing. I've never seen somebody in a Royals uniform, a hitter, that was so streaky and at the drop of a hat can become so bad, and then out of nowhere for no particular reason becomes so good. I'm baffled by it. But when I watch what he's doing now, he's staying through the middle of the field. He's keeping his head down. Swings a little more compact. He's not chasing bad pitches. And when they do make mistake pitches, he absolutely pummels them. So then he makes me feel bad about myself for kind of giving up on him and hitting into all these double plays. And then I look in the mirror like, I'm such a jerk. What? I can't believe I said that. So yeah, it is what it is. I hope for the long pendulum swing that it hangs on that side for as long as possible, because inevitably he's going to break your heart for a week.
He is on pace for 22 and a half home runs right now, right? Let me give you his full season. Once he got up and played a full season, He was hurt part of the year in 2012 at age 22. He had 11 home runs, only 76 games. But then he kind of gets going, right? Home runs 13, 17, 21, 22, 27, 27. The COVID year he had 11, which parlays out to about 40 some odd. He had 48 the next year, right? 23, 23, yep. 27. Like he has been in the 20s in 7 of his seasons, and he's barreling towards 23 home runs this year. I mean, maybe it's just us living and dying on every stretch. Salvy's just always Salvy. And there was this one moment in time, as David pointed out, after taking a year off, which I can tell you, all the analytics guys who have studied the military players that lost service time, and he's like, oh, God, what could Ted Williams have been, or what could this pitcher have been if he'd had those 2 or 3 more years? And they found that they actually maybe were better because they had that time off. They got a break. Their body got to heal and loosen up a little bit. Well, Salvador misses a year and then has a COVID year, and he goes 48 home runs. Like, he has that monster year. Listen, I know he's going good, and we want to just say, okay, shut up. Everybody's got to be on Team Salvy. Let's smash it around. But I actually think, when David talked about, hey, how about give him a rest? I still vote more rest for Salvy. More rest gets
I do too.
Yeah. I definitely think that's part of it. How about Nick Loftin? Where do we sit, David, on Nick Loftin as one of the long-term pieces of the puzzle?
I still don't buy it.
Who asked you, David? Let's be honest.
I think you just did. All right.
This is America. You will tell me what I want to hear, and you will do it right now.
Yeah, tell me what to say, and then I'll let you know how I feel. No, the problem I have with Nick Loftin is he still doesn't do enough damage to the ball. There are things he does well, really well, that I think can make him a long-term big leaguer in a utility role that I think at times, and maybe even for full seasons, can play up to a semi-regular or even a regular. But he doesn't hit the ball that hard. He doesn't really barrel it. I mean, he's done much better. Don't get me wrong. This year, he had
Would
4
you not
barrels.
give credit for the last 5 games over everything else you've seen? Why are you not overrating the last?
So Monday and Tuesday are more important than Wednesday, obviously, because he had 4 hits then and no hits on Wednesday. But I'm just not there because he's hitting the ball better, and I'm impressed by that. He doesn't chase. It's impressive. He doesn't swing and miss. He doesn't strike out. He does get the launch angle sweet spot, that the perfect spot to hit the ball. He's done really well with that he hadn't done before. And he had improved those numbers both in spring training and in AAA. So there is tangible evidence over the last, when did spring training start? March, 4.5 months, that he has gotten better. The problem is it's still not league average in a lot of these ways. And I'm encouraged by how hard he's hit the ball recently. And so this is one of those situations where I feel this way now, but I could see a world where if we talk about this in 3 weeks, I change my opinion. But at this point, it's hard for me to see big league regular, just because I don't think he does enough damage to the baseball. It's as simple as that.
Not sure what he's talking about there, Les. I said 5 games. It's actually his last 4 games, which is plenty of sample size for me right now. 313, 688 slug. That's a 1,000 OPS. Look, I'm not hinting at Nick Loftin, turning into Jay Buhner or but could he be becoming at least Diet Whit Merrifield, a guy that has position flexibility, and when you put him in there, you're going to get a big league at bat. I loved hearing what David was saying. Like, I could not figure out how he's leading professional baseball in walks. When he was at like 24 walks, that was more than anybody in professional baseball. And as a minor leaguer, he had played like 7 less games.
Yeah.
Some guys in the big leagues, that. And by the way, that means he had more walks than Juan Soto. He had more walks than, take your pick. Any of the big league power hitters that scare the hell out of pitchers. He had walked more, and he wasn't busting the ball over the wall down to the minors. But to hear David talk about those things, it's clear he is taking some of the elements that were turning into walks at the minor leagues. He's getting going here. And I will point out that for his career, I know Dayton Moore gets tee-heed about a lot of different things, but the 1,500 at bat thing, I think he got way too much crap for. Everybody said he was just making excuses for Mike Moustakas and for Eric Hosmer when they're having struggles, except for they did turn the corner. And for Moustakas, it was almost right at 1,500 bats. I don't think that's a magic number. I think it's just like, let's see the at-bats.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what we've got. And that's an element of like, if you are selling, why we've said play Nick Loftin, let's pile up some at-bats. Let's let him try to figure it out against the big leaguers. Do you see enough in the raw skills and the swing to think that it's at least worth the investment in time and at-bats?
Well, when I look at Nick Loftin, I feel like, yes, I'm an outfielder. He's an infielder, but I feel like had I been given the opportunity, I am Nick Loftin. Just to be able to have at bats, play every day, get out there. So you will not find me with any negativity toward Nick Loftin. Now, I will be real and say he could have a really long career. I love your Diet Whit Merrifield comment, because Whit Merrifield had a really good long. Now, he probably should have had a couple of years on the front side and didn't, but he still had a really good big league career, made a lot of money and had some success. And I think Loftin could do that as well. I'm proud of Nick Loftin. I'm excited for Nick Loftin to see, because he's playing with joy. He's confident. I look when he spits on a pitch that's an inch off the plate and the umpire doesn't screw it up and he actually calls it a ball, which I got to go look at stats, but I feel like maybe it's only when I watch games, but I feel like I'm seeing umpires just screw hitters more than they have lately.
Every single game.
It's horrible.
Brutal.
Yeah. If I threw things at my TV, I would have like 50 TVs on order from local places that sell them. So I love watching his at-bats. I do see the improvement. I like his last 7. It's 263, a couple of home runs, 4 RBIs, but I feel like he's going with pitches. I feel like he's confident. I feel like when Nick Loftin's up, I'm interested. I'm okay. What's he going to do? He's got a good chance to do something good here. And I watch his whole at bat and I get inside his head in the middle of the at bat, and it makes that exciting. It's not when I watch Bobby. It's not when I watch Garcia. It's not when I watch Salvy. It's not when I watch Jack, but he's giving me something encouraging and exciting to watch because he's doing something good and he's making himself into a player. And last point on this, one of the things that we were all, I think, complaining about 2 months ago was, can we just have a corner outfielder that just give us something until we finally get that guy? And with what we've had with the lack of production, he's kind of becoming that guy until something else happens in the future for a corner outfielder. Jack will figure it out. I don't think Kyle Isbell's a great center fielder, but he's probably not the long-term center fielder. And for right now, until we get that guy, Nick Loftin is doing a good job. And if not him, then who, right, Soren?
Yeah.
So give him a shot. Let him have some at-bats. Let him ride this streak out. Let's see how long he can hold it. He's playing adequate defense. He can play all over the place. Let the guy go.
Yeah, I think he looks like he could be a quality utility player.
Yes.
And by the way, when you're winning, guys like Bill Pecota, you know, are icons. They're heroes. Who was the guy that played for the Angels and the Yankees? Well, I mean, Craig Counsell's a guy that was on 2 World Series teams as the utility guy with the Diamondbacks and the Marlins. And Craig Counsell, and it's like, you know, but guys are, you know, they become when they get one big hit. Right, Christian Colon has 5 minutes of fame here, but he really wasn't a good player. But he came up big, and you know, we're all flags fly forever. He was a part of those things. But I do think there is an element of, if you can develop a Bill Pecota, if you can develop, you know, and you're not having to go buy them for $3.5 or $4 million, and they can give you a professional bat and they can play multiple spots, that's a nice piece to have.
That's right.
Right. And I think Nick Loftin can be that and if you play him and he emerges into more because he gets a little more loft in his swing or, you know, what have you, then great. But if along the way, you don't have to go be messing around for Kevin Biggio's of the world because you've got a guy in-house that can handle that. I mean, I think one of the more valuable guys in baseball for a while was Sean Figgins, right? Or Chone. For those that had never heard his name actually read aloud on a loudspeaker. But, you know, he could play in the outfield. He could play second. He could play third. And at various times in his career, he manned those spots on a day-by-day basis, but you could move him around. Those guys are hugely valuable.
You said Angels and Yankees. Were you talking about Rex Hudler?
No, that's funny. I was not. No, God, more of a small guy.
Oh, my God. Why did you say that? Why would you do that?
Hey, it fits.
Because it was the
It
most,
does fit.
It was the most. Well, Rex isn't small. Rex is a big guy.
That's true. He is.
Yeah.
He's a
I
big.
mean, maybe it's because I'm 5'8". Maybe less. You don't see him as a big guy. I see Rex as a big guy. But there is an element of that. I mean, Rex is a good
Soho.
parallel because when he was on good teams, people were like, "Oh, I need to get a hold of a home run and play all over the place." Then yeah, people love him. You find
Luis
him?
Soho.
No, but
No?
he's in that category
He's
as well.
Angels and Yankees too.
And Mariners.
And Mariners.
He's in the category as well. But there's like Craig Counsell's the best one because I remember back in my network days of a guy Zach Zaidman who's been the voice of DePaul. I think he's now one of the voices of the White Sox. I think they just get bumped up to the White Sox. I can't remember. Anyway, worked with me back in the day. I'll have to look where Zach is now, but it's been in Chicago for a number of years at the Score and stuff. And we had this huge argument one time about Craig Counsell. And he was talking about how Craig Counsell was the key. I don't even remember if it was the Marlins or Diamondbacks. I'd have to look back by the years as to what it was. And I'm like, Craig Counsell is not the key. That is, Gary Sheffield is the key. The key are the guys that can really hit. But they get built up because, he had a key hit. Yes, he did. When we ISO down on a playoff game, that one hit seems pretty big. But if you didn't have the 115 RBIs from the big bats, you wouldn't have ever been in that game. So, yeah. Anyway.
One thing on Loftin real quick, that it's funny. Everybody, any veteran who spent time in the minors is Whit Merrifield. That's what they're going to be. Whit Merrifield, no matter what. But go watch the walk-off from Tuesday night. And don't look at his legs. Just look at the upper body. That's a Whit Merrifield swing. It looked like Whit Merrifield. Somebody mentioned that to me, and I went back and I was like, oh, that is Whit Merrifield swing. Okay. And it was almost exactly, not the legs, but the upper body.
Yeah. So we'll see. It's not just because Nick Loftin's on my fantasy team that he made it onto the rundown.
Oh, there it is.
I want to be clear. He is a pickup on the worst fantasy team that's ever been assembled. Because if you can have Chris Bubich, Junior Caminero, and I've got another stud. Jackson Holiday, and your team.
Well, only one's an all-star. So,
but if your team sucks and is dead last, and you have those guys all at really cheap prices because they came through your minors, or you got Bubich cheap in the auction this year, you really suck. And so I suck. So I'm counting on, come on, Nick Loftin. Let's get it together. Give me a cheap keeper for next year. I'll take it. Show that you can play all over the place. Hit a few home runs. We'll take it. Listen, if you would like, you can always support our podcast, the Coffin Corner Podcast, by supporting our great sponsors like David Starnes, Allstate Insurance, serving the Kansas City area all throughout the Midwest. If you need help with your insurance, call David. He does a fantastic job. I know he did a great job for me. 816-781-7331. That's 816-781-7331. Our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City for over 30 years, since 1994. Avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses in your lot. If you own or manage a business, Gann Asphalt and Concrete has you covered. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. And Greenlight Dispensary with 15 plus locations in Missouri. More on the way. Greenlight is the go-to for all your cannabis needs. Tell them you saw Greenlight right here on the Kaufman Corner Podcast. So for David Lesky from Inside the Crowd, for former Royal Les Norman, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner Podcast.